realistically, unless you're feeding new audiences in through the top through paid, it gets increasingly challenging over time to reach new audiences.
B2B Content Strategist is the podcast where you'll hear actionable advice and strategic guidance from content marketing leaders. I'm Amy Woods, CEO of Content 10x, and I sit down with leading B2B marketers to discuss how they overcome challenges with limited time and resources and execute winning campaigns time after time. If you want to improve and streamline your content marketing, keep listening. Hello and welcome to the first episode of the B2B Content Strategist podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, founder of Content 10x, and I'm so pleased to be speaking with you today. The B2B Content Strategist podcast is all about sharing conversations with leaders in the B2B content marketing world. In particular, I'll be interviewing business and marketing leaders in the tech and professional services industries. We look at what goes into their marketing strategies, the who, the why, the how. Hopefully you will take away some strategic guidance and actionable advice for your own marketing strategy and approach. In this episode, I'm joined by Andy Lambert, Director of Growth at ContentCal. Andy has over a decade of experience in creating markets, building profitable businesses, and leadership roles in industry-leading SaaS organisations. He's worked exclusively in B2B SaaS, having led sales and marketing teams, created 2 businesses from scratch and achieved significant exits. In 2016, Andy joined the founding team at ContentCal, a social media marketing SaaS product, and he explains more about ContentCal in the interview. Over the course of 5 years, they raised over $10 million. ContentCal grew to be used by multiple thousands of customers in over 100 countries. They won numerous awards and, at the end of 2021, were acquired by Adobe. In this conversation, Andy shares how ContentCal approach marketing and the 4 main content pillars that they focus on. We talk about the most successful and memorable content marketing campaigns Andy has been involved in and so much more. Let's jump into the conversation. Andy, welcome to the B2B Content Strategist podcast. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
It's a real pleasure. So could you just tell us about your role in a few sentences and what ContentCal does?
Yeah, so I am Director of Growth, slightly esoteric sounding title. Basically constitutes anything to do with business growth, which is rather broad because I'm not sure there's a role that constitutes to business shrinkage, but hey, so that's me. I'm one of the founders here at ContentCal. So from creating all of the commercial engines to anything that interacts with our customers is, well, usually I'm involved with in some capacity. What ContentCal is, as the name might suggest, it's a content marketing platform to allow individuals to ideate on, plan, organize, publish, and analyze their content, not just social media, but broader content, as you and I might see. You know, content is just not one single social media post, it's broader than that. So a simple calendar interface to help people organize things cross-channel.
Awesome. And what does your team look like? So in terms of how are you structured from the role specifically or the sub-teams that you have under yourself?
So yeah, the structure is always interesting because it's changing. We're a small business, about 50 employees now, grows quite quickly. So I kind of straddle sales, marketing, product. So it's kind of interesting role because it links a lot of that together, helping like the product and market expertise transcend the multiple different departments. So I play a bit of a floating role, but from a marketing perspective, which is probably more pertinent for this conversation, pretty simple really. Head of marketing, that's Chris. Underneath that, we have a head of brand and content, Katie. Katie has 2 individuals underneath her, so 2 copywriters ultimately and content creators. And we also have a product marketer as well. So making sure that all the content that we create talks the right language from a product perspective as well. So not a hugely complex structure, that's the way we're running at the moment. There's also a lot of change with that following like the acquisition by Adobe recently. So yeah, it's things will move and change and evolve for sure.
How far in are you now since the Adobe acquisition?
We are 2.5, no, not even 2 months, 6 weeks. 6 weeks. So very early days. Basically, lots of conversations around exciting stuff. Some integration work has started, but there's still lots of things to net out and finalize. Incredible next step of the journey. But of course, like with any kind of small and scaling business, change is the constant, and this will be the biggest sea change for the business in our journey, which I think I speak for the rest of the business, we're all incredibly excited about, but lots of unknowns, it's fair to say.
Oh yeah, I mean, huge congratulations on that. Such a, big achievement. And when I remember reading the announcement about the acquisition and just being so happy for you guys, just thinking, wow, what an achievement. So, congrats on that. And I'm sure it is the kind of biggest change, but it's definitely positive change, I'm sure. So, lots more to come now.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting because it's like, in some ways, for many businesses, I'm sure it would seem like, once you've kind of exited the business, that feels like the end. But I think here, the attitude at ContentCal, it feels like the start, to be honest. Like, suddenly there is an incredible world of opportunity, being one of the world's biggest creative companies. So, we're buzzed, basically.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it does feel like the start of something amazing. So, yeah. What about your content strategy? So, what is the kind of overarching content strategy and the current priorities that you guys have with the, kind of content that you're creating for your content strategy?
Yeah, so for us, it's all educationally led. As it probably would be for many other businesses. So nothing massively complex here, but there are really kind of 4 types of content that we create that are all predominantly focused on user education, because the market that we serve is small businesses. The biggest gap, and you'll know this as well as I will, Amy, which is, the biggest gap for small businesses isn't their desire to do it. It's their understanding of what it is they need to do. And it's really, creativity is the biggest barrier to doing content marketing well, because if you're creative and you can tell a good story, it kind of doesn't matter what channel you choose to double down on, your message will work if you get the story right. And that's why we spend a lot of time helping small businesses, providing educational content to help individuals and businesses get better at content marketing. So that then presents us with, an incredible plethora of content that we could create, right? Because it's nearly limitless. So I mentioned a few different kind of formats or types of content that we create. And number one will be like the downloads and guides, simple stuff. Loads of people do this, but the purpose of those is to rank predominantly for SEO, the most popular of which is our content calendar template, right? So the irony isn't lost on me. It's fair to say that we provide an Excel-based calendar template as a lead gen funnel for a business that's built to kill it. Go figure. But so those kind of templates that rank well for SEO, pull people into a funnel. I'm sure we can talk more about funnels and such later on. And then webinars are a huge one for us. Once again, lots of people do them. Our average webinar registrations are about just over 1,000. So we run them every 2 weeks, mostly with a guest speaker, not necessarily like celebrity. We have done ones with Stephen Bartlett or Matt Navarra before. But to be honest, the results we get with the kind of the big ticket speaker isn't hugely different to the individuals that we would bring on that just get their craft and speak well to our audience. In fact, Amy, definitely one that I'd like to get you on one of our webinars.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Because like individuals like yourself, where you've where you know your craft, there is a really good angle you have to tell, and it's so nice for our audience to hear from someone else as well. So do a lot of giving the stage to other individuals. So webinars, really, really powerful. Then the two others, one is our academy. That's definitely a lot heavier lift in terms of content creation, and it's basically like the natural evolution of the educational content we're creating. Yes, we're doing these kind of like templates, we're doing these webinars, and then we take these webinars into our broader academy, and the academy basically then structures the learning. So rather than someone just watching a webinar and going, that was good, that was interesting, I learned a couple of things, giving some form of test after it, an accreditation to go, what did we learn? How can we now put this into action? And structuring all of that content in a learning journey. That's a really important one. And the final piece of that, which kind of links in all to this, is for the people that don't really want to go on the kind of structured learning journey, we just have these short courses whereby, and you'll like this one, Amy, where we take the webinars, cut them up into little pieces, and we just call them short courses, 15-minute snippets of hard hitting learnings. So you don't have to sit through 60 minutes of learning. You will get a lot more from that, but if you just want to the point, that's the short courses for you. And of course, around all that is all the social and email, but really everything points back to those four kind of key tenets of our content.
And with the academy that you mentioned, with the courses long and short, is that a academy for people, customers of ContentCal, or is this a kind of just a free academy for anybody?
There's two sides to it. So all of which is free. So one is structured into kind of learnings around all these webinars, which is non-ContentCal specific. Just, it might be something about SEO. It might be a course on, email, for example. So it's not all something that's just related to even the things we do here at ContentCal. Now, there is a version of our academy where it's a course, we call it the diploma, where it's all focused on how you use ContentCal then to kind of deliver against what an ideal content marketing strategy might look like. So I think for me, that was one of the most important things we did for growing our business, because then it set the context of the ContentCal features into what a broader ideal content strategy looks like. And this goes a bit more into product marketing at this point, but that then is particularly interesting because not everyone can see what you can see when you look at a product. It kind of brings it to life to go, right, well, if your content strategy needs to look like this, here's how you bring it to life using a tool like ContentCal. But that's a very specific version of the academy, of which is not really promoted that broadly, because you would need to have a keen interest in learning ContentCal to.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned on top of those four key pillars that all the social content that you'll be creating as well. Are you, I guess I know that you'll be focusing on most of the social platforms in what you do. Are you running paid social campaigns as well as part of that strategy?
Yeah, definitely. So all of the normal social channels are the ones that we focus on. To be honest, results we'll only typically get from an organic perspective. Predominantly off LinkedIn is where we do the best, then followed by Twitter. And we run paid. We run a lot of paid. Historically, probably a bit of insight. We've probably been guilty of not taking our own advice from a paid perspective, and thinking paid as purely the acquisition side of marketing, rather than thinking paid as brand lifting, right? That's definitely a huge learning I'll take away from some missteps that we've made over the year, because we invest heavily into Facebook ads, 5 figures plus every month, for example, right? And it all goes into dedicated landing pages, which is focused on bringing people into our trial. That's all well and good, but of course, without focusing on lifting the brand at the same time, and this is where many B2Bs fall down, is that they focus on those paid channels as purely acquisition channels, which misses a huge amount of the opportunity in focusing on raising the profile of your brand through increasing reach and driving into your content funnels. And that's, you know, a bit of a pivot we made from quite recently, I think about Q4 last year, to be honest. I was happy with that move.
Yeah, so more kind of brand awareness and content, organic, content marketing of the content, as opposed to like the acquisition content. That makes sense. We talked briefly about the structure of your team and the specifically like the marketing area. So what have you decided to keep in-house, and what aspects of this has been more preferable to outsource?
Good question. Simply put, all paid is outsourced. One single agency managing all paid across Facebook and PPC, which is fine, which worked well. It's a huge area of our growth, fueled growth through paid media. It's about 40% of all of our new business comes through that channel. But as it's outsourced, that's kind of why we've seen quite a delineation between that's the activation, the kind of performance marketing sits over there, and all of the brand content sits over here, which has typically been organic, which has still driven the majority of our growth, the organic, 60% of our growth. But it's kind of capped because realistically, unless you're feeding new audiences in through the top through paid, it then gets increasingly challenging over time to reach new audiences with organic alone. So that's why we've had that segmentation, that separation. I'll definitely advise businesses against that. But yeah, everything else is in-house. For a period of time, we were running a podcast, had a separate podcast host running that, who took it over from me. And I wouldn't go back to doing that again. Just lost the brand voice, to be honest. A huge benefit of podcasting is to learn from people like yourself and build relationships with a podcast host. I also like you in this instance. And that was lost. So realistically, I'm not entirely sure. Content creation is quite hard to outsource. That being said, we do outsource some of the kind of writing of our SEO blogs to like freelance copywriters, for example, but that's against a kind of strict SEO brief, for example, because what we don't want to do is tie down our content creators with churning out SEO orientated blogs. When they're creative individuals. So it's their job to help implement the strategy that's been set by Katie, head of brand. So there's quite a bit that's outsourced, actually, now I start to think about it.
So what do you look for when you're choosing an external partner to work with for outsourcing? Are there any kind of really key traits that are major green go yes, and maybe like red flags as well when choosing those partners to work with?
To be honest with you, the current partner is one that was chosen by another member of the team who they'd worked with historically. That's why word of mouth works so well with agencies, right? Because everyone will say the same thing. They can all say that they can do the same things predominantly, but the only difference is trust. So if someone's delivered some results historically, then we'll go with them. Honestly, I don't think I could share anything particularly interesting or insightful, because it's just like how any sale is done. It's like as soon as someone trusts you, then you're in, and that's all we've looked for.
Just a super quick break from this conversation to let you know that if you're a B2B technology or professional services company and you want help with streamlining your content operations, outsourcing your content repurposing is the number one way to produce more high quality content and boost your ROI without putting any more pressure on your team. In fact, it could save your team up to 30 hours per week. We offer content repurposing services for video and audio content. Whether you have a show or you're launching a brand new one, Maybe you have an archive of awesome content, be it webinars or a virtual event, or you want help creating thought leadership content that we can repurpose. We've got you covered. Head to content10x.com to see how we can help you and start increasing your efficiency and the value you get from your content. Now back to the conversation. So let's talk about one of your most memorable content marketing initiatives. So what would you say, I know this is putting you on the spot, one of the top 10 then, most memorable, but if possible, the most memorable content marketing initiative in terms of, what you did and the results that you had?
So memorable is an interesting one because I could talk through something that is quite new. So the results are still a bit unknown, to be honest, but proud of, and talk through something as well that has delivered outstanding results despite, not massive effort. So I'll talk through a couple of them. So there's one that kind of sticks to my mind, but it was quite a big upheaval. And this was done in partnership. So it's kind of like content syndication is a really interesting area. Basically, being able to proliferate content through other parties or partners as well. So we did something with the Content Marketing Institute. So well-respected brand in content marketing. And it was all based on the maturity model of content marketing. So essentially we had created a model of which myself and Chris, our head of marketing, came up with the kind of 5 steps of maturity businesses go through on the natural evolution of, they get content marketing, start to see it working for themselves, and then they get to the pinnacle of it becomes entrenched in a business process, not, just being done by some marketer solo by themselves, just flying the flag for content, but it becomes entrenched. So it's that kind of journey. And there's lots of maturity models in this space, but we decided to properly get it researched. We came up with it based on our knowledge, but then we took it to external parties and had some kind of educational establishments validate the validity of our model, which then gave it extra credibility, where it's not just our view of the world, it starts to kind of solidify. And then we got the Content Marketing Institute involved in this. So then suddenly it becomes a really respected piece. We ran a massive content marketing survey where we got 2,500 content marketers to respond to this based on, how they would rate themselves in terms of their performance against a whole number of criteria that sits within this maturity model. Did a massive write-up of that, launched our maturity model, had that publicized across multiple different assets, kind of like PR type of stuff. So starts to go above and beyond. So, my kind of daily Google alerts start ping off as people start to recognize this piece, because kind of becomes an independent study on, the maturity of content marketing. And it's then kind of plays back into everything that we do at ContentCal, because we then restructured all our pricing and our plans to focus on where you're at in the maturity curve. All of our sales team then got trained on this to help people to understand where they're at. When they're asking people about, how did you find ContentCal, but also talk to me about your plans or how content marketing is seen within your organization, etc. So it helps us advise people correctly. So it became a piece of content that became entrenched across the whole organization as a kind of core underlying principle of what we're about and what we were trying, not just to tell the market what we're about, but also represent that value in everything that we did. So that's memorable because it's everything. It becomes a business priority, not just a kind of content marketing endeavor. But then the other thing, which is not huge effort, not huge investment, but outsized returns. And there's too many to think of, so I'm going to call out 2. So one is our partnership with a marketing community called the Marketing Meetup, which I think I've got about 25,000 members now, started by a guy called Joe Glover. brilliant community. We got in with them 2 years ago, I think, a year and a half ago. So they're quite early on in this. This was kind of pre-lockdown, where they've kind of, post-pandemic, they've really started to balloon and scale. But anyway, so we deduced that they had like the perfect kind of audience. I went to quite a few of their meetups, and it felt like a really good audience for us. So started up a partnership with them, just simply giving them free access to ContentCal, and there was some money that changed hands as well, but nothing, not a great deal, to be honest. And then working in partnership with them, like creating content together, whether it's like surveys, whether it's kind of, I started to run like live strategy sessions for them. So for the community, so anyone could drop in and, share. It's basically like content marketing agony aunt, if you will. So I just had opened drop-in sessions, and it ended up getting us really entrenched with the community. And, trust proliferates in a community when, word of mouth it spreads like wildfire when you work within a community, because even though, ContentCal is pretty small in comparison to Hootsuite or Buffer of the world, when you start to work within communities, you seem bigger than you are, because suddenly it's like, oh, everyone's talking about you. Well, it's just only everyone within your circle.
Yeah.
So you're bigger than you are, which ultimately has that net effect of, that's why people trust bigger brands, because you've heard about them. It's a way of shortcutting trust. So then when people in a community hear about you and say good things, it starts to spread much quicker. And that was a brilliant community to be part of, and it continues to be incredible for us. We continue to work together really closely. And it, as you can probably see with everything I'm talking about, the channels and who you work with is just as important as all of the content that you'll create, because you need to think about where that content is going to end up. Because like I said earlier, you're always going to hit a ceiling if you're just thinking about promoting it on organic through your socials, through your emails, etc. You need to always think about the other audiences that can get hold of your content. And the final thing, sorry, it's a super long answer.
No, it's good.
Was actually, this is one time that actually popped up to Manchester, to be honest, in this story. Just at the very, very first week of launching this business, thinking about how on earth do you gain any traction. We're a tiny business with 3 of us in a garage. So where do we go? Competing against like the likes of Hootsuite with God knows how many customers they have, 85,000 plus, I think it is. Anyway, but when I was Googling stuff, I was Googling Hootsuite pricing, and I saw a blog by a chap called Ian Anderson Gray, who lives just outside of Manchester. And I saw that it was basically 7 reasons not to use Hootsuite, which was ranking Hootsuite pricing. I was like, that looks brilliant. I need to make friends with Ian. So anyway, I dropped him. Most people would usually, and I'm sure you get this all the time as I do, I get emails every single day of people saying, can I put a link on your site? Or
yes.
It's just like, shut up. It's just no one thinks about it. It's just spam fest. And then so I just dropped a message through his site. It's saying like, I'd love to take you for coffee to learn more about how you built your site. You're obviously incredible at SEO. Also love to show you what we're working on here at ContentCal, because you clearly know your stuff. Can I come up to Manchester and buy your coffee? He said, yeah. Sat with him for an hour, because actually bought him a coffee, and he was generous enough with the time. And he saw enough value in what we were about. And also he left an impression, right? Because out of all the tons of emails that he gets, because he has a brilliant site, the person that wanted to take the time and lead with generosity, that's the time that he also reflected that generosity. Anyway, so we ended up doing some stuff together. He ended up including us on that article, and that 5 years later is still one of our highest generating sites for traffic. And it's incredible finding those people to help you, thinking about where you can put your content, whether it's on the search term, whether it's within communities. That's the bit it takes a lot of thinking about. There's no hacking it. There's no shortcutting it. It's just about constant, relentless thinking about it every single day. Where can I put this content? And let's not just think, oh, we should start a TikTok.
No, I absolutely love your answers to all of them. come down to, collaboration, community, partnership, trust. And and another answer could have been, well, we put loads of spend on A/B testing this Facebook ad, and then we went all in. But it's not that, is it? It's from what you said, I love that all of them came down to that, to trust and partnership and collaboration. It's just really funny. It's too long a story to go into now, but I know Ian well. The first time I ever met Ian, I did the same thing. I went for a coffee with him because he was going to social media marketing world, and I noticed he lived near me, and I got in touch and said, can we go for a coffee? Right when I was starting Content 10X, before Content 10X was a business actually, and it was in kind of early stage, and I just spoke to him about it, and we spoke about that post. He talked to me about this, why you shouldn't use Hootsuite. We spoke for ages about that post because we were talking about SEO and ranking and all things like that. So it's funny, the small world. We were talking about what attracts people online, the what not to do, and as well as what to do. And people are quite intrigued by those kinds of articles. So funny small world. Definitely. Let me ask you 3 quick fire questions before we say goodbye. So number 1, what's one takeaway tip that you would give to other content marketers looking to optimize content output?
Get your story right first. Know your audience intrinsically and focus on the smallest possible audience you could serve. Too many people think about serving too many audiences. Focus on the smallest possible. Get that story right. That will absolutely resonate.
Love that. Okay, brilliant. What is one typically overlooked or undervalued tool that you would recommend? Apart from obviously ContentCal, which isn't overlooked or undervalued, so that's not fair.
Overlooked, undervalued. I'm going to say it's not necessarily a tool, because there are lots of tools that do this, but just the knowledge of share of voice. That single metric is the one most misunderstood or just not even thought about metric in content marketing. Yet for me, if you had to tell me I could use no other metric other than one, I would only focus on share of voice. Because that really truly helps you understand the impact that you're having. And there are tools that you can get that metric on. For me, Mentionlytics is one of the most cost-effective ones to get that measure.
Awesome. Cool. If you could create any kind of content for your organization, and I mean anything, right, as in a billboard in Times Square or a TV show, or just the sky's the limit, what would you go for?
This leads back to our kind of pre-podcast chat. I would do an in-person event that's all focused on content marketing education, where people would have to do practical exercises and implement some of the learnings, and then we can share findings. So it'd be like a 3-day event. And then you can truly understand the output and the learning off the back of that. So like really interactive learning and execution event. And that for me would be incredible. And plus, because I'm very much missing some in-person connection, that's for sure. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, you got a perfect venue in mind on your event vision board.
I don't, as it happens. No. So open-minded on that one. The output, I'm definitely very clear on what we'd like to get from that.
Cool. So on the B2B Content Strategist podcast, we're speaking to true leaders in B2B content world, tech world, just like yourself. Who do you think I should be speaking to? One other person that you think a leader in the B2B marketing tech world?
I know there's 2. One might be a little harder to get hold of, Dave Gerhardt, but I'm sure you know who he is. And I'm trying my best to remember his name. He is from a business called Supermetrics. I read his stuff a lot on LinkedIn, but why can't I remember his name? Edward Ford.
Oh, okay. Edward Ford.
Yeah.
I'm going to be looking him up.
Demand Gen Director at Supermetrics.
Cool. Okay. Dave, I would love to have him on. I've corresponded with him on email, and it's just reminded me because he's just gone onto the board, our client, he's an advisor. So that gets me another conversation starter. So there we go. I'm going to try again and see if he can speak. He's a legend as well, isn't he? Everything he says, it's just really, really good advice. So I'm a big fan as well. Thank you so much, Andy. It's been such a great conversation. In terms of any next steps that you would like listeners to take, anywhere you'd like them to go, you mentioned some awesome downloads before.
I mean, just if you head on to our website and our resources, it will give you everything that I've spoken about today. And also the best place to connect and network is LinkedIn. That's where you'll find me. So I'm always happy to strike up new conversations with other B2B marketers, because I could talk about this thing all day, because B2B content marketing is still very much in its infancy. There is a long way for B2B marketers to go in terms of improving content output and the results that they get through content.
Definitely is. Well, thank you so much. I'll put a link to your LinkedIn. Not that anyone will struggle to find you, but as a classic podcast statement, we'll have links to everything in the show notes. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an awesome conversation. So thank you.
Loved it. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks for listening to this episode of B2B Content Strategist. Do let me know what you thought of our conversation by getting in touch with me on social media. You'll find Content 10X on all the social platforms, or search for Amy Woods, CEO of Content 10X on LinkedIn. To find out more about streamlining your content marketing processes, and specifically about content repurposing, check out our website content10x.com. where you'll find information and resources that will help you achieve more with your content more efficiently. And if you're looking for a partner to outsource your content repurposing and distribution to, get in touch, as we offer a world-class, fully end-to-end, done-for-you content repurposing service. Thanks again for listening to this episode, and I'll catch you in the next one.